So, my topic today is the power of words. The power of words and speaking things into existence. A story is told about two ladies who got into the bus and started speaking terrible things about their mutual friend. And one started asking, "Did you hear that Eva got engaged yesterday?" The other one responded, "No, I did not." "Good for her, but how is she going to run a household? She's so disorganized and sloppy. She doesn't keep time. She's reckless with money. She's terrible at cooking. That husband of hers will die of hunger." And they went on and on about Eva without any positive thing that they could say about Eva. When suddenly a woman who was behind them interrupted and said, "Sorry, ladies, for interrupting. I just want to introduce myself. Yesterday, my son got engaged to Eva, but after listening to you too, I'm very convinced that we have to cancel the engagement immediately. In fact, I'll even tell the rest of my family how grateful I was for meeting you and letting me see Eva in her true colors." The ladies started to shiver and to stutter as they tried to now convince this woman that Eva is so kind, she's warm, she'll be a good mother, and that they should not cancel the engagement. But this woman wouldn't want to hear any of that. She was adamant and had made her mind, simply because of what she had heard. Then there was a long pause that seemed like eternity. As this woman was about to get off the bus, she turned to the ladies and said, "I am not the boy's mother, but suppose I was. What damage do you think you would have caused to a potential family? You would have already destroyed a young family simply because you have nothing else to talk about. And worse off, you've got nothing good to say about somebody else." So with that said, she got off the bus. So this is basically about the power of words and how damaging they are. So you're probably here today on the Sabbath. Perhaps you're the one who've been separated with your partner and your parents also separated while you're still young. But you still remember the words of your father to you saying you will raise up children as a single mother, you will never attract a reasonable man in your life, and despite several dates, none of them commits. And in the meantime, your peers are happily married. You're struggling and wrestling with the question of generational curses. Perhaps you're struggling in your career life and cannot make ends meet. You keep losing one job after another, and you even question your own emotional intelligence. And now you try to think of the words that were spoken by your mother earlier on, and they amount to nothing. They deter your progress. Maybe perhaps you're also the one who's doing relatively well in the corporate world. You are legally married, but the marriage is characterized by domestic fights and you never seem to agree on anything. Or maybe you're struggling to have children. Perhaps you're also the one who has a child with a rare disease, and despite all you have tried, there is no healing, and you're about to wave the white flag of surrender. The list goes on and on. That's your story, right? But I dare say to you this morning, you are not cursed. Jesus took away these curses in our lives and he nullified them on the cross. For it is written, "Cursed is everyone who hangs on a tree." That is in Galatians 3 verse 13. I invite you today to a new beginning, a fresh start, to a higher ground, to a new world, to teach you how to break the seemingly generational curses and how to speak and level your high mountains and how to stand up to every confronting giant. You see, ladies and gentlemen, the power of the spoken word is a concept shared by many faiths and cultures and has been used to transform societies, to shape destinies, to drive humanity towards a certain course and enlighten us to a certain purpose and mission. And once words are spoken, they cannot be put back. They have the power to stay for eternity, but they can only be forgiven. Born both blind and deaf, Helen Keller once said, "Sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will break my heart." You see, the human tongue may not have bones, but it has the power to break a heart. It's a beast that few master how to train. It struggles with stubborn persistence to get out of its cage, but unless it is tamed and trained, it will cause you havoc and misery. It has the power to break relationships or your career, which is why you must never speak in anger and never confuse bad words for bad mood. You see, you can have countless opportunities to change your mood, but not a single chance to change your bad words. We come into this world with no preconceived notion, feelings, or views. We don't come here with any attitude or any beliefs. And while our well-intending parents and teachers trained us how to speak, very few of them taught us about the power of the spoken words. They simply indoctrinated us into their own set of beliefs, convictions, and values, which largely forms your frame of preference and your early worldview. No wonder why most of us are careless and meaningless with words, because we don't appreciate the vitality of this precious tongue that we have. And after this presentation, I want us to realize that in life, you don't get what you want. You get what you expect, unless what you want and what you expect are incongruent. I would like us to examine the words that we use on a day-to-day basis. Let's re-examine them. Let's see our working vocabulary so that it works to our advantage. Closely check the meaning of words and the power they carry and how best they can serve you. So I'm just going to go through 5 principles in life. Those are just 5 laws. So we'll talk about the law of creation, the law of echo, the law of self-preservation, the law of faith, and lastly, the law of correspondence. To start with, I'll go through with the law of creation. It states that everything that exists was created by an intelligent being. Only a fool says what? There is no God. That is in Psalms 14 verse 1 and Psalms 53 verse 1 for those that would like to take down notes. God created the world by the spoken word. He caused the things that are not as if they are. By his word, he made the heavens and the earth. He said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And he said, and he said, and he said. He said, "Let us make man in our own image," and we were created. So because we were created in the image of God, you see, we also have the power to create through words. We use our words to name our surroundings, to establish relationships, to name our children. Hopefully on the naming of the children, hopefully those that are going to be born now will not be called coronas and the Wuhans, social distancing. I've heard it all during this period. By our words, we define our past, our present, and predict the future. Words are powerful. Words are a powerful tool and a gift that God bestowed upon us, only if we use it well. We create or destroy by our word. Every time we speak, we commit ourselves to an action. For example, soothing words releases soothing chemicals in our body to both the speaker and the listener. Same applies. Angry words will produce what? Fighting chemicals to both the speaker and the listener. We do not just hear we just don't hear what we say, but we also feel ourselves speak. So I ask you today, whose words do you use? Whose words form your working vocabulary? What are the lyrics of the songs that you hum? You either attract by what you say or you're snared by the words of your mouth. This is not my writing. It's in Proverbs 6, verse 2. I encourage you to polish up your language. So let's say instead of saying, I am broke, begin to say, I'm working on a new financial plan. And maybe instead of saying, it is difficult, begin to say, it will take more time and effort. So even to the ladies, even in the beauty sector, I've often heard ladies say, I'm treating my hair. Is your hair sick? No, it's not. So begin also to say, you're moisturizing your hair, you're feeding your hair. Let's polish up that language. Right. That is on the law of creation. Moving on to the law of echo. If you're surrounded by mountains and you shout the words, I love you, you're going to hear your own echo. I love you, you, and it goes on and on, right? So you see, the cosmic is the large sounding board that bursts off every spoken word back to the sender. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Life is an echo. It gives you back what you said, multiplied. Kind words may be short and easy to speak, but their echoes are endless. Similarly, when you say a negative word, it boomerangs back to you. For instance, if you say to someone, I hate you and wish you trip and fall, those words are likely to become your own reality. Look at the book of Esther. We learn that Haman was hung in the same gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. In the book of Daniel, we read that the accusers of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were burnt in the same fire that they had prepared for the 3 Hebrew boys. So raise the consciousness of your words, note your voice. Just like rain falls on the ground, words fall into our hearts. They are seeds of life that produce its own harvest, and someday you will reap from it. Let's face it, brothers and sisters. Not everyone in the country, in your family, your work, or on the social media lives by these principles that I'm talking about. So let's say, what are you going to do when someone throws venom at you? The quickest way to dissipate the negative energy thrown at you is to live, act, and speak in a different manner. For example, if a person discourages you, try to encourage someone else. If someone looks down upon you, try to lift someone else. If you feel afraid, try to affirm someone else. Jesus taught us to bless those who curse us and pray for those who harm us. Why do you think that is so? Once you give a blessing, the blessings also comes back to you multiplied. You must realize the abusive language of the other party is not about you. It is about them. If someone tries to bring you down, why wrestle with them? They're already lower than you. It takes greatness to lift another person. So I suggest to you that you refuse to sink into an argument with someone. You would be if you refuse to sink into that argument with somebody, you'll be raising the bar of how you want them to handle you. If you refuse to use nasty words and remain calm and composed, you'll be setting a standard of how you want others to treat you. Consistently model the words and behavior you want them to use while dealing with you. Eventually, their consciousness will give in to a healthy norm.